Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Table brought to you by the Blue Stable. It's been a couple weeks, but we are finally back to do our off-season winners and losers. Before we get started, go ahead and make sure you are subscribed to the channel, like the video, go follow our social medias or Twitters. I'm at Luke Verkamp. Austin is at the Austin Isaac and at the Fantasy Table. But anyways, how are you doing tonight, Austin?
I'm pretty good. We had a little mishap trying to get loaded in there because we're not used to recording in daylight. So
Right, yeah,
with
we're
daylight
usually
lasting a little longer, it's the windows behind me. Every single room I have a window in is behind me. So, but I think we got it now.
going into them southern summer months,
Yeah,
getting all
exactly.
that light. But anyway, I did check my recording for my video should be working today. Should be. If something happened between now and like 5 minutes ago, then whatever, it happened. But either way, we all should be good now, ready to go.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Anyway, today it's going to be a pretty short episode for us. Actually, we're just going to be like going over the major news in the NFL, which isn't a whole lot compared to the rest of the offseason that we had before this and our winners and losers of the offseason so far. So, pretty quick episode, but it's something that we wanted to get out to you guys. So, we'll get started off with the news. Marlon Mack signed with the Texans. Now, I'm really happy for Marlon Mack because he deserved a shot to be a starting running back somewhere. And the Texans is a great spot for him because they have an older David Johnson and like Rex Burkhead and a couple other guys. So he definitely has a shot of starting in Houston. And I think that he could do pretty well in it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in the last episode before he ended up signing. It was kind of like rumored he had visited already. But yeah, I mean, pretty much Marlon Mack with the Texans is the best fit inside that division. So he's got that chip on his shoulder to go and, get, big games against the Colts twice a year. Hopefully not. But also, at the same time, there's no bad blood between Marlon Mack and the Colts. So I kind of hope to see him have a good game, but still lose the game maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's a budding offense. It's a very, very young offense. Davis Mills in there. They got a couple first round picks. They got some decent draft picks in general. So if they can build kind of around Davis Mills, I think Marlon Mack, assuming he still looks good after that Achilles injury he suffered in 2020, he could probably be, RB1 easily in that offense, not RB1 in fantasy, of course, but
Yeah, he would have a long way to go to be an RB1 in fantasy again.
right.
But yeah, no, Davis Mills was sneakily, like, not sneakily, but he was like very underrated last year
Mm-hmm.
because for what that Texans team was, he performed very well. Like, I don't think anyone was expecting Davis Mills to do what he did last
That's
year.
not to say he didn't have his down moments either, because
No,
all
yeah,
rookie quarterbacks have their struggles. Justin Fields, who was one of the best rookie quarterbacks last year, still struggled mightily. Trevor Lawrence, as we all know, who was supposed to be a generational prospect, struggled very big time. Couldn't find the words there, but so I
right.
mean, Davis Mills for doing what he did in an offense, one of the worst offenses in the league, highly likely. I mean, he did pretty well. So imagine what he could do with a team around him.
Yeah, like his only real receiving weapon is Brandon Cooks, and which he did get extended. So good for the Texans for keeping an actual decent player. But Brandon Cooks, Marlon Mack will probably get the starting running back job because David Johnson is not what he used to be back whenever he was on the Cardinals. And really, I don't see them taking a running back in this draft class unless one drastically falls because running back should be way down on their need for draft needs. So I don't see them getting another one. And while, yes, Marlon Mack will probably be a running back one for the Texans, I don't know where I'm going to take him in fantasy drafts just because of that Achilles injury. We really don't see many running backs come back very well after Achilles. He did look good in spurts last year, but with the full workload, I still don't know on what he's going to be able to do. And it's a bad offense, so it's kind of like one of those things like I'd be happy to have him as like my flex, but Above that is kind of a risk for me.
Yeah, it's really going to depend on what they do in the draft. I feel like just that offensive line is probably the biggest part of what Marlon Mack is going to be able to do. Marlon Mack hasn't had a bad offensive line in the league yet, so there's really no telling what he can do there. But I mean, his vision, and I think we talked about a little bit about this a couple weeks ago, but his vision is amongst the best in the league. So I mean, as long as
Vision and patience, like he has
yeah,
incredible patience too.
as long as they create a hole somewhere, it doesn't matter if it's where it's supposed to be, he'll find it. But after that, he has to be able to run the ball. And with that Achilles injury, it's obviously a bit iffy. So I could see them maybe starting with a running back by committee kind of thing, maybe starting off the season. There's really no telling what he can do in fantasy. I kind of want to see what he can do for at least a few games first.
Right. No, yeah, I totally agree. And our next news is actually another running back. And to be quite honest, I think this is all just because Tom Brady went back to Tampa Bay. But Giovanni Bernard re-signed with the Buccaneers. Really not too fantasy relevant for me. I just really think that Tom Brady likes Gio, and so that's why he's back on the team. Leonard Fournette's going to be the guy there. And I'm going to say Keyshawn Vaughn's probably going to play like the Ronald Jones role from what happened last year, and then Gio's just going to be Gio, and he's going to be in there on seldom like receiving downs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Gio's not really anybody who really moves the needle, so it's going to be probably playoff Lenny all the way through the season, and then maybe Keyshawn Vaughn on those times where on those times where Fournette's getting some breathers. But I mean, like you said, maybe just some passing downs for Bernard. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I really don't see him getting too much work to be fantasy relevant. But next up, this one's actually kind of not really that big, but Devonte Parker got traded to the Patriots. I know this is very old news, but we haven't recorded in a couple weeks. But we talked about it whenever we were talking about the Tyreek Hill trade, that Devonte Parker was probably going to get moved because he's been rumored on the trade block for years now. And now that they got Jalen Waddle there, they got Cedric Wilson in free agency, they got Tyreek Hill in a trade, that it's probably just time for Devonte Parker to move on. To the Patriots, that was the kind of biggest surprise out of the whole thing, that they traded him within the division. But he is an older receiver. He's still probably the best receiver that the Patriots have now. Well, I don't know how big of a fantasy impact he's going to have on the Patriots, because they are more trying to pound the ball with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. Mac Jones is a pretty efficient quarterback. So while I don't love the fit of him going there, it's still not a bad landing spot for him.
Yeah, I don't really like the fit either. I don't really know why they traded him in division. I know they got a little more because he was that in division trade. But Mac Jones to Devontae Parker should be a solid connection. He is, as of right now, before the draft, wide receiver 1, in my opinion. So he should be getting all those targets. However, I mean, when's the last time the Patriots have had like a wide receiver 1 in that offense outside of like Julian Edelman, who was, just really a slot guy? But
I gotta say, Edelman and Welker, they're all slot guys.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was probably like Randy Moss.
Yeah, Randy Moss years and years ago. So I mean, they don't really. It's just not really in Bill's MO to really like use a receiver as much as he does, which is why I'm sure they were comfortable with their receiving core last year. So I hate this fit for Devontae Parker, but at least he's going to be getting targets.
Yeah, his main competition for wide receiver is Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar, but like nothing too crazy. And then they also got the 2 tight ends in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry that they spent like $100 million on last year.
For some reason.
And then they end up not using like either one of them that much. Hunter Henry did have a good stretch there, but
yeah, I feel like it was like Jonnu at the beginning of the season, and then like as soon as the mid-season hit, they started using Hunter Henry more, and just for no reason, no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
What a waste of time.
And with this whole wide receiver market going crazy, there are also rumors of DK Metcalf and AJ Brown on the trade market. And since I wrote this, AJ Brown has put out some like tweets and stuff like that, and Tennessee fans have been like, "Oh, you need to be a team player," blah blah blah, and he has removed the Tennessee from his bio, which to me, I don't really see that meaning a whole lot, but it's still something that could happen.
All this social media, these cryptic tweets and everything like that. Nobody ever knows what it means until something actually happens or doesn't happen.
Right.
AJ Brown, I don't think is going to be moved. This could just be one of those things that happen during the offseason that everybody forgets in a couple months. And,
well, it's like, yeah, it's like Kyler Murray at the beginning of the offseason took off all of his Cardinal stuff. And now he's like, oh, yeah, I want to win Super Bowls for the Arizona because Arizona's home. He like literally just said that today. So it's just like, it's just a bunch of like, they're just doing it to get attention, basically.
Pretty much at this point, yeah. I would say if anything, maybe AJ Brown's got more to be traded from than DK Metcalf does. But I don't see any of them getting moved. I think if there's anybody getting moved from that Seahawks offense, it's probably Tyler Lockett to go try and win a ring somewhere. But outside of that, not really anything.
Come on to the Colts. We will take you, Tyler.
Exactly.
Well, these next two, I probably should delete the one, but the Texans were receiving trade calls for Brandon Cooks, and then he got extended like the next day. So it's like one of those things is that there are the rumors that, oh, Brandon Cooks could get traded, which that could have been put out there by Brandon Cook's team to try to get a bigger payday. Who knows?
Which happens sometimes.
Yeah, which does happen.
No solid proof, but
right. But
it doesn't surprise me that it wouldn't surprise me if it was the team.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, and then Brandon Cooks signed his extension, so unfortunate for him because he's been traded around like crazy, and now he's on his worst offense of his career, to where he now gets extended. Unfortunate for him, but he is a very good receiver, and he will be the number one there unless they draft somebody in the top of this draft.
Yeah, it does suck for him because he's not winning a ring anytime soon, especially after that extension. And he's getting pretty up there in age. I think he's 30 now, maybe pushing 30.
I don't think he's 30 yet. Let me check real quick. But I think he's like 27.
27?
I'm pretty sure.
That's the case, then maybe he's got some time.
No, he's 28.
He is 28. Okay. He's younger than I thought. I thought he was like 29 by now.
Yeah, no. He's been in the league for 8 years.
Yeah, that's probably why it feels like he's old.
So like he got drafted whenever he was like 20. So kudos to him. He just produces. He's been great since he's been drafted.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age though. So even regardless, as a receiver, he's probably only got a few years left. Which after this extension is over and he's a free agent again, he may be looking to sign with a contender. Just to try and go win a ring. But
I gotta say, I believe he signed, it was like a 3-year deal. So it's like 3-year deal. He'll be 31, probably sign like a 1-year deal somewhere. And maybe that would be it.
Yeah.
Be around that age. Gronk said that he's 50-50 on his return to the Bucs. He said that if he comes back, it's going to be the Buccaneers, which is no surprise because he only wants to play with Tom Brady. As we all, I don't know if everybody knows, but he threatened to retire on the Patriots if he got traded to the Detroit Lions whenever that was going around. That was the funniest thing ever.
It was forever ago now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But anyway, he says that he can't commit to football right now. Gronk is something, man. He plays so great, and then he retires, and then Tom retires, and so it's like, oh, Gronk's probably going to go with him. And now Brady's back, and now Gronk's like, yeah, I don't know if I will come back. Great career if he does hang it up, but you almost got to think that he'll be back, especially with O.J. Howard leaving.
Right. As of right now, they don't really have a tight end one, so I don't know why. I guess O.J. Howard probably didn't want to stay in Tampa anyway, especially if he was going to be tight end one, because clearly he's scared to be a tight end one if he wants to go to another team with another star tight end.
With a good tight end, too.
Right. If Gronk comes back, he's going to be a pretty solid impact, and barring injuries, of course. But there's no telling what he's going to do because I feel like he just kind of does things spontaneously, and that's just who Gronk is, and we all love it.
Yeah, we all love it. He's one of those players, like, he's always been on the teams that I don't really care for, but I love him as, like, a guy. Like, he is hilarious.
Right.
But moving on, Saints, they traded to get 2 first round. So I forget what the trade all was now again, but either way, the Saints have 2 first round picks now. It's like pick 15 and pick 18 or something like that, around that area. And there's a lot of speculation if they are using that for 2 separate players, if they like 2 players in that range, or if they're working to trade up to get a quarterback in this draft. Personally, I feel like that they're in that mode to where they need to focus on winning now, and they should get 2 decent players in this draft. Like, I know Chris Olave is one of the best fits for them, and he's been mocked to them a lot. I feel like that'd be a great player for them, and then they could use their other draft pick for another area of need. I feel like that'd probably be the best way to go, but if they like a quarterback in this draft, you got to take your shot.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think they're going to trade this up unless it's for – actually, I don't think they're going to trade this up. I don't think there's anything to trade this up for unless you're going for a quarterback, but I don't think –
I guess they would have to be a quarterback, but, is Malik Willis worth that to them?
Probably not. I don't think the potential of Malik Willis is worth missing out on the entire year of potential playoffs. I think they're comfortable with Jameis Winston. I think what they need is to use these 2 first-round picks to get 2 very talented players in this class. A wide receiver, obviously, being one of them for opposite Michael Thomas, who everybody has completely forgotten about,
including yourself. I gotta say, from the group chat.
Yeah. But somebody opposite Michael Thomas, probably another Ohio State receiver, knowing the Saints and how they draft. So Chris Olave would be a perfect fit across from him. And then I would assume probably somebody on defense as well, maybe like another corner, probably, because what's Marshawn Lattimore got? That's across from him, really nothing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. They definitely need help at wide receiver because the wide receiver 2 is Marquise Callaway now, which he's not bad, but he's more of a wide receiver 3 on an NFL team.
Traquan Smith, even these are wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, nothing that great. But also talking about wide receivers, Stephon Diggs got an extension. He plans to retire in Buffalo, which is honestly great for him because he's a great wide receiver and he's playing with a great quarterback with Josh Allen. So he's probably going to be a wide receiver 1 for fantasy for the next 3 years yet.
At least, yeah. Diggs is easily a top 3 receiver in the league. So, for him to be able to keep this chemistry with Josh Allen for the next, 6 years or however long he's planning on actually staying in Buffalo, is great for him because he's a really good receiver. Fantasy-wise, this year, next year, year after that, probably just elite status. Everything after that maybe starts a little bit of a decline, but, he's still a very, very talented guy. So, him and Josh Allen together.
He's actually 28 years old as well. So he's the same age as Brandon Cooks.
I did not know that. I did not know they were the same age.
It's crazy because it's Stephon Diggs is 28. Brandon Cooks is 28. I'm pretty sure Devonte Adams is 28 or 27 as well. Michael Thomas is 28 or he's 29. So it's there's all these really good receivers that are all in the 28, 29 range right now of age.
Which is crazy because it just feels like they're still so young, but they really weren't.
Right. But either way, Diggs, he signed a 4-year deal, so he would be 32 whenever that deal ends. So if he plays more beyond that, that's awesome, but I don't know if he will because
is that 4-year added to his current contract, or is that 4 years from now?
It's 4-year extension. So he still had 2 years on his contract. So actually, yeah, it might be.
It would be 6 more years.
Yeah, it'd be.
I just pulled that number out. I didn't know it was actually 6 more years.
Yeah. It looks like it might be actually.
Okay.
So 2 years. So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So 6 more years with Buffalo. So
6 more years.
They got 6 years to win a Super Bowl.
That's crazy. Yeah. Which, I mean, if they play games like they did against the Chiefs in the playoffs, then kudos.
They got
because they
need a
got a
running
good
back.
shot.
They have to draft a running back. One of the good running backs this year. They have to draft one of them.
Man, if they get Breece Hall, that
Breece
offense would be
Hall,
so
Kenneth
nice.
Walker. Breece Hall would be such a good fit in that offense. But Kenneth Walker
wouldn't be bad as well.
Isaiah Spiller, any of them.
Well, Kenneth Walker's like a power back, so like Devin Singletary, that's a pretty good match for them. But yeah, Breece Hall, I think, would be the dream landing spot.
That would really set that offense on another level.
Yeah,
I feel like that's all they've been missing this entire time. It's just, I feel like Gabriel Davis has really come up as a wide receiver too in that offense now. And I think they just need a running back. I was high on Devin Singletary, but I don't know if they just don't use him correctly or if he's just not good in general. But
they used him correctly at the end of the season last year. Like towards the end, whenever they stopped using Zach Moss so much, like Devin Singletary did very well. Like his last 4 games, he had 86 rushing yards and a touchdown. He had 5 receptions, 39 yards, and a rushing touchdown, 110 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, 88 rushing yards and a touchdown. So it's like at the end, they finally used him correctly, and he like actually played very well. But
the same thing with Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox has always been a talented tight end. They never used him, but it's crazy how when you actually use somebody with talent, they perform.
They actually do well.
They finally did.
Either way, after that little side rant, moving on, Melvin Gordon visited the Baltimore Ravens. And to be quite honest, I know this is going to be kind of a hot take, but I think Melvin Gordon would be a great thing for J.K. Dobbins. Now, I know you're probably thinking, what am I talking about? But hear me out. So the Ravens are worried about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards coming back from their ACLs. And that is evident by Melvin Gordon having a visit there. But Melvin Gordon, if he signs there, most likely is going to be one of those like 1-year deal type things. We saw it with Devonte Williams and Melvin Gordon this past year. They split. Most likely that'd be the same with J.K. and Melvin Gordon this year. And I feel like if they do not get Melvin Gordon, the Ravens are going to draft somebody. So I'd much rather have the Ravens sign Melvin Gordon than than draft a guy like Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Spiller in like the 3rd round. So I'm not saying that is the best thing, but I think it's a better thing for J.K. Dobbins that they get Melvin Gordon than they would for drafting somebody.
I guess when you say it like that, maybe.
Because they're not ready. Like the Ravens have come out and said that I guess they're not ready.
Yeah.
They don't know when their timetable to return is.
I guess that would make sense then to get somebody that can do that. But
especially in a run first offense like that, they need to make sure that they have somebody there. Because otherwise they're going through the Devonta Freeman like they did last year.
I guess so. But I mean, if they waste their time now and get Melvin Gordon and then JK comes back, who is probably a top maybe 7 to 10 running back in fantasy in that offense. I mean, I'd probably say top 10 in fantasy.
He'd be around there.
That would just be devastating for his fantasy value to just plummet off of a roof like Melvin Gordon did with Javonte Williams, hawking his touchdowns as much as he did. So, I mean, I would just hate for them to waste it. But at the same time, if you don't know, you kind of do need that backup plan. So
I gotta say, it's not great for fantasy, but I mean, in real life sense, like one of their better options for the Ravens.
In real life sense, that's their quickest way to making the playoffs, is making them split carries. But
right, I gotta say, it was funny. So after this news broke, one of my friends in my dynasty league texted me. He's like, "Man, Melvin Gordon must hate your fantasy team." Because I had Javonte Williams last year, and then I just traded for J.K. Dobbins like 2 weeks ago. And then this happened, and I was just like, yep, it's just me. Melvin Gordon just is the Achilles heel to my team.
Yeah.
Also, another extension that we had was Derek Carr getting extension. Well-deserved, by the way. He's such an underrated quarterback, in my opinion. But yeah, he's a really good quarterback. Now he's got Devonte Adams, which was his high school teammate. He's still got Hunter Renfrow. He's got Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake's going to be coming back from injury. They're actually going to have a pretty decent offense.
Yeah, I think if they can build that offensive line in the draft, I think that's the weak point right now is that offensive line. But I mean, he really doesn't have any holes on that offense. You got, like you said, Adams, Renfrow, Jacobs, Drake, Waller, and then Derek Carr is probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire league. Everybody seems to think that he's bad, but I mean, look what he's had to work with for the last few years.
Okay, see, when people say that he's bad, I'm just like, did you guys see what happened last year? Right. Henry Ruggs had his whole situation happen. The John Gruden situation happened. All this other stuff was going on, and they still made the playoffs.
Yeah.
In the AFC
West.
West.
Derek Carr. It's not like, I mean, the defense was good, but it's not like the defense was just some elite, force that was carrying them to a playoff berth. It was on the back of Derek Carr.
They beat Justin Herbert and the more talented Chargers to get into the playoffs.
Right, exactly.
Like, playoffs on the line, and Derek Carr did amazing. So, I mean, people can say what they want, but he's great, in my opinion.
He absolutely has his flaws, but who doesn't? I mean, I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback.
No, he's not like elite or anything, but he's
absolutely. But I would say he's just outside of the bubble of being elite.
Yeah, he's up there.
If there's a quarterback that's outside that elite bubble, it's probably Derek Carr.
There are like people that were like, whenever there was a trade rumors to the Colts or whatever, there are people that are saying like, "Oh, I don't want Derek Carr." Yeah, it's like, he just made the playoffs. He just beat us to get into the playoffs. Like, I don't know, what you're saying.
I mean, those Colts fans should know very well that final drive, that game-winning drive, that it was absolutely a knife to everybody's heart. But
yeah,
I mean, everybody seems to forget his MVP season that also the Colts ended.
Yep.
So,
yeah. No, I totally agree. Talking about quarterbacks, Carolina is reportedly the most likely landing spot for Baker. This makes a lot of sense for both parties. And it's just going to be another team's trash that DJ Moore is going to have to deal with another mediocre quarterback. But to be quite honest, Baker Mayfield would be the best quarterback that DJ Moore has had in his career.
Well, don't tell Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, don't tell Robbie Anderson. He does not want it.
But I do feel like Baker would be really good for DJ Moore, as long as he moves his way. But
yeah,
I feel like there's really, he has not had any good quarterback in his entire career, and he's still putting up numbers. So imagine what he could do with even just a decent quarterback like Baker. And Baker still got that potential. Like, I genuinely wanted Baker when he was getting rumored to go to the Colts. He's still got that potential to be a good quarterback. He's still really young. Was he 26 now?
Yeah, he's pretty young because he came out in the draft pretty young too. So
I mean, I think he's still on his rookie deal too, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I mean,
I think so. Or
if he's not, he just
or was it a 5th-year option or something like that?
Maybe,
I don't remember what it
but
is.
He's going to be cheap. At this point, Cleveland's going to be desperate to get rid of him because they have a quarterback already, and Baker doesn't want to be there as it is. So, I mean, it's not like they're going to be asking for a first-round pick for him. So, any team that's getting him is probably getting him for like a day 3 pick, maybe a pick, like a bundle of picks.
Well, to be quite honest, I think that I'm pretty sure that they have like something on him because Baker's contract is apparently like massive. And so they're talking about,
I guess he was a first overall pick. So
yeah, he was the first overall pick, and I'm sure that they use like the 5th-year option, which is probably pretty expensive. So most likely what they would have to do is like the Browns might have to send like a draft pick too. So it'd be kind of like how the Amari Cooper trade went down, to where like they swap like late round picks and gain like a pick or something like that. Probably something like that if they're trying to get rid of Baker.
Yeah, I could see definitely something like that, because it's not even an option anymore. They have to get rid of Baker. So it's just a matter of where he goes. But I do think Carolina would be his best fit, because that team is really ready to go. They just need a quarterback.
I gotta say, really, his only other options is Atlanta, but they have Marcus Mariota.
Yeah,
Seattle, but I would not want to go to Seattle.
Yeah, I feel like Carolina has a better shot trading for Baker Mayfield than they do drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, I
Use
agree.
that first round pick you have, instead of taking Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett or whoever you're planning on taking, take somebody who can help Baker. Doesn't have to be another receiver. I still like, obviously DJ Moore. I still like Robbie Anderson, can still be good as long as he has a quarterback throwing him the ball. I still like Terrace Marshall, who never really got a shot last year, but he's still a really, really talented receiver. And I think this year, if he gets a quarterback, he can probably thrive in that offense.
Then
But
tight end Tommy Tremble.
yeah, Tommy Tremble's still good.
CMC's coming back.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they need, you got Chuba Hubbard in the, to back up CMC just in case, maybe even coming on those breathers. They, get a defensive player, maybe a safety, or if I'm Carolina, I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably either trading down or taking another pass rusher opposite Brian Burns.
Yeah, no, that would be a good spot. You can never have enough pass rush, and if you get like Baker Mayfield, like you might as well just go for the defense because like your offense is pretty set. Really,
I really feel like they're a quarterback away, and if they've got, what do they have, the 8th pick this year?
Yeah, it's around the 6, 7, 8 range. I forget
With how mock drafts have been falling. For some reason, Kayvon Thibodeau has been falling like decently far. If he falls to 8, I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns is insane.
That'd be very good duo right there.
That's a playoff contender right there. So, I mean, I really feel like that's the best option for him is Carolina, because Seattle's not ready. Atlanta's not ready. Pittsburgh, not really, because I just signed
Trubisky.
Yeah. I feel like maybe in Pittsburgh's offense, Trubisky and probably Haskins would have battled it out. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins, of course. So it really just seems like it's Trubisky's offense unless they draft one. But
yeah, I could see them maybe getting like Kenny Pickett or something like that, but I don't know if they really need to, or they could just wait for next year.
I would, yeah. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm probably at least seeing what Trubisky has to offer and then going from there. But yeah, I feel like Carolina is the only place that Baker could go and thrive. So as much as Robbie Anderson's going to hate it, but
yeah. Anyway, the last bit of news that we have for today is a pretty big one, but Debo has requested for a trade. Reportedly, there's never been anything confirmed or whatever, but from what it sounds like, Debo has requested the trade. To be quite honest, his best landing spot to me is San Francisco. I don't think he should leave because they use him pretty well in that offense. I know he just wants to be used as a wide receiver, not like the wide receiver running back combo.
Which is insane to me.
Which, yeah, he's a lot more productive as a wide receiver running back, but I don't blame him because being used as a running back is just going to hurt his body more and more, and maybe
it's fair.
Maybe get him less years.
It's crazy to me to see somebody come off of their best season after
dominate
after doing what they did and having a pretty historic season, and then coming in and being like, hey, I know all that stuff I just did was fantastic and league changing literally, but I don't want to do it anymore. I actually don't want to help the team anymore. And then San Francisco's like, but we want you to, and he's like, well, then I want to leave.
Right.
Like if I'm another team, like, you have to think any team that's going to trade for him is going to be like, hey, like, I know you said that, but
I gotta say, it's like, I feel like any team that wants to trade for him is kind of like still expecting him to do what he did last year.
Right.
That's why you're kind of trading for him.
Yeah, you're not.
That's
you're not
why he is
the receiver. You're trading for Debo, the football player, the weapon.
And it's kind of weird because it's like you're going to be paying Debo if you trade for him, so you're going to have to you're paying for the season last year.
Yeah.
And if he's not going to be playing like he did last year, then why are you paying him that big contract?
Which is crazy because I feel like if I'm not mistaken, I saw reports that said he wanted paid like a wide receiver running back hybrid. But
really? I didn't see that part.
Yeah, I feel maybe I'm misspeaking, but I feel like I saw those. But that doesn't make much sense if you're like, I want to get paid for what I did last year as a running back wide receiver,
but not do it again.
Like also, but I only want to play wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like what? You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right. Yeah. It's a whole weird situation. I know the Jets are desperately wanting a alpha wide receiver, so they're probably calling about him. And I'm sure there's other teams calling about him too, but whether
I
he
would
gets
say the
moved or not.
Jets are probably, in my opinion, the most likely. I know those odds came out and had like the Colts and the Saints up there, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the Colts don't really have the assets to trade for something like that, nor do they really need him in that offense. And the Saints don't have either of those. They don't have the money. They don't have the assets. They don't. I mean,
Unless they're wanting, if they're wanting to take a wide receiver in this draft, they could move like their first round pick for him.
I guess
I'd be okay with that. But
at that point, I'd rather just draft a player, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, something like that, opposite Michael Thomas, and not have to give up the
I guess
farm.
they're already paying Michael Thomas big money at
Right.
wide receiver. So it's like, why would you want to pay like two guys?
Right.
Because it's like, so one of my Dolphins friends, like one of my friends, he's a Dolphins fan. He was like, oh yeah, Debo hits like the free agent market. I think the Dolphins could get him. And I'm just like, this was after the Tyreek Hill trade too. And I was just like, I just don't see it because like Debo's not going to walk in free agency. They're going to trade him before something like that happens.
Yeah.
Or they'll like do what Green Bay did with Devonte Adams. They'll tag him and then trade him. But it's like, I don't see a team investing that much into wide receiver like the Dolphins would be then. Because then you would have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Deebo Samuel. And that would be probably one of the best wide receiver rooms ever, but you would have a lot of money into that.
Yeah. Like it just, I feel like it just kind of has to be.
Yeah. Jets are nothing.
Right. Really, basically. So, there's really nobody else that's going to have not only the money, but the need for him.
Right.
And I guess Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator, but I'm sure he's still got some connection to Debo over there. But
well, I'm pretty sure their offensive coordinator is that LaFleur, and he was from San Francisco as well.
Oh, right, that's true. That's true. So he's got the connections. It's just a matter of if he's going to be used in the same way he was last year, despite him saying he doesn't want to be.
Right.
You have to think that if a team's trading for him, they're trading for the hybrid player. They're not trading for just Debo the receiver, because Debo the receiver didn't do as much as Debo the hybrid player did.
Right.
And I really feel like it comes down to defenses scheming it up for him, because scheming up for Debo just solely as he's going to be lined up outside is completely different than Debo could be lined up outside. He'd be lined up in the slot. He could be lined up in the backfield. It completely changes defensive schemes too.
Right. No, I totally agree. But either way, moving on, since we actually went through that news and notes for quite a while, a lot longer than I was expecting.
I wasn't expecting that too. I had a lot to say. It's been a couple weeks. We have a lot to say.
I say, been a couple weeks. We have to let everything out. Yeah. But either way, we're going to go over our winners and losers of the season so far. So what we're going to do is start out with the winners. We'll just do one at a time. We both have 3, and then we'll go to the loser side. So I'll start off with my winners, and one of my winners is not necessarily my biggest winner, but is Dalton Schultz. I know I've said this on the show multiple times now, but Dalton Schultz has to be one of the biggest winners of this offseason. They cut Blake Jarwin, so no longer sharing the tight end room with Blake Jarwin. Cedric Wilson gone in free agency, and they shipped off Amari Cooper for basically nothing. So he's basically their second best receiving threat right now, because Michael Gallup's still coming back from that ACL. So he's going to start off pretty strong, I think. And then when Gallup comes back, he might not have as great of a season from then on, but I still think he's going to be a tight end 1 this next year, and possibly I'd say probably pretty safely top 5 with how the tight end position is. But I think he's going to be up there this year.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz for sure is an absolute winner in this. Just injuries aside, he's still going back in that offense. He's making decent money now. He's on the tag, isn't he?
Yeah, he's on the franchise tag.
So he's making solid money. He's the highest paid. That's how the tag works, right? He's the highest paid tight end in the league as of right now.
No, I don't think it's the highest paid. I'm pretty sure franchise tag, they do what? They take like the average of the top 5 at your position.
Why did I think it was highest? I don't know. which I guess teams would probably franchise tag less if it was the highest paid player.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, he's going into that offense, it's a high powered offense. He's back with Dak. Dak seems like he's getting his footing again. So, going back there, you can't really go wrong with Dalton Schultz, fantasy wise, especially.
Which, I mean, he was the number 3 tight end last year.
Right, exactly. I tried getting him in almost every league I was in. I failed half the time because it was too late at that point, but he was already good. But yeah, so I mean, he's very, very talented. Did you want to alternate these, or did you want to read?
Yeah, I'd say we should alternate them.
Okay. So my first winner, none other than Joe Burr, Joe Football, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool, Joey Franchise, Jackpot Joey, Super Bowl Joe, Joe Burrow. All right. Big time winner. He has an offensive line finally. He does not need to run for his life anymore. He's got a sick receiving core. He's got a sick backfield that's already been a part of this team. He doesn't have to build up chemistry with anybody. That offensive line, they built a wall in front of him in free agency, which is about time because he no longer has to fear for his life every time he takes a snap. That was one of the biggest reasons they lost the Super Bowl, is because he didn't have an offensive line protecting him from Von Miller, from Aaron Donald, So, I mean, absolutely huge win for Joe Burrow. And I really feel like he can probably push for an MVP season this year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As Colts fans know the heartbreak of having such a talented quarterback with no offensive line.
I'm glad they figured it out early.
I got to say, thankfully, the Bengals are doing right by Joe Burrow by getting him an offensive line.
Shout out Ryan Grigson.
Yeah, no kidding. He showed him what not to do for a franchise quarterback. Yeah, exactly. So now he's got all those weapons, yet he's still got Tyler Boyd. He's still got T. Higgins. He's still got Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. And now he's got an upgraded offensive line. Their offense is going to be great this next year. And
absolutely,
he definitely probably could be in the mix for MVP candidate.
I feel like he was pushing for it last year, but so I mean, imagine making time to throw. Imagine letting Boyd and Higgins and Chase get go deep a little bit, and if he gets a tight end, he doesn't have a tight end right now either, does he? He's almost gone.
But is CJ Uzomah still on that team?
No, I think he went to the Jets.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did. So the
only reason I know that is because after he went to the Jets, I think he started dating Kay Adams, which is heartbreaking. Oh, really? Yeah, heartbreaking. But
very heartbreaking. Agreed. Hayden Hurst is their number 1 tight end.
Yeah, so
I didn't even know that
tight end in the draft. It's a good draft to need a tight end, though.
Yeah, that's true. Either way, staying on the quarterback train. I know Austin has another one as well, but my next biggest winner is Tua. I mean, this has to be an obvious winner. They traded for Tyreek Hill. They signed Cedric Wilson. They signed Chase Edmonds. They have a lot of talent on the offense. They're basically saying, hey, you prove it this year or we're replacing you because we got the offense. So, now, his offensive weapons, he's going to have Chase Edmonds a running back. Wide receiver, he's got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson. Tight end, you got Mike Gesicki. Their offense is going to be fast. They also have Raheem Mostert, and Raheem Mostert's very speedy. So, it's this is his year to shine. Otherwise, it's it for him.
Yeah. If he doesn't perform this year, then he's never going to. I think you nailed every single nail on the head there. There is no reason.
There's no excuse anymore.
Yeah, he has no excuse. I mean, he needs an offensive line still, but that's what the draft is for. So you build up that offensive line a little bit in the draft, and it's not even like they still got Teron Armstead. So
yeah,
I mean,
that's true. Yeah, I even forgot
one of the best in the league. I mean, he has no excuses anymore. Maybe getting another running back in the draft, maybe somebody who can be that true RB1.
I gotta say, if they can get a power back Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah. Let Mostert be that speed guy. Let Gaskin be that receiving guy, and then get a power back there and just have a 3-headed monster. I mean, he has no excuse. He's got a ton of speed on that offense. Just throw it up. Somebody's going to be down there. So, I mean, if he has another bad season, barring injuries, of course, there, he's toast. It's over. It's over in Miami for him. The tank for Tua did not work, but that's remained to be seen. My other winner is going to be, and this is a pretty obvious one. It's going to be another quarterback. I know I've gone 3 straight quarterbacks here, but Derek Carr. And it's just, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but he's got his college wide receiver, Devonte Adams, who ever since college has obviously built himself up to being a wide receiver 1 in the league. At the very lowest,
the wide receiver 1.
Yeah. Not just on a team, the wide receiver 1. At the lowest wide receiver 2, but it just depends on your rankings. But, wide receiver 1 in the entire league. He's still young. Both of them are. Both him and Devonte Adams are still young. They're still under. I think Derek Carr just turned 30, if I'm not mistaken. But that offense is going to be really, really good. That's pretty much the only reason that he is a winner is because he got Devonte Adams. Hopefully Hunter Renfrow continues his tear. Hopefully Josh Jacobs, bounces back. He didn't have that great of a season last year, but it was still a solid season. Darren Waller, obviously, so he's got all these weapons. So I feel like he's framed up to be for his biggest season yet.
Yeah, no, I mean he's definitely a winner. He's got probably the best offense he's ever had in his career. Renfrow is an underrated receiver. He was wide receiver 11 in fantasy last year. So, yeah, he's definitely a big winner in my books.
Yeah.
He could probably push for another MVP season if all things go right.
Yeah, absolutely, he could.
And then my next winner, my final winner, is the Denver offense. I could point it to just Jerry Jeudy, but I just wanted to include the whole offense. I know I've said this multiple times that better quarterback equals better efficiency. So I think that like Javonte Williams is going to get a bump up because the offense is going to be more efficient. That's more scoring opportunities, and that's more touchdowns for Javonte. Jerry Jeudy is probably the biggest winner out of the wide receiver group. Cortland Sutton, he'll be better, but I don't think he's going to be crazy good as what people think. Albert O gets a big jump up. Just that whole offense gets a huge boost with Russell Wilson there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, if Russell Wilson gets a boost up just for being in that offense compared to Seattle, because this is
one of the better offenses he's had in his career.
Right.
Since the days of Doug Baldwin. That's a name that everybody's forgotten about.
Oh, good old Doug. I used to draft him almost every single year in fantasy.
He was one of my favorite players, and I have no idea why, but it was.
I love Dougie.
But yeah, so I mean, there's really nothing you can go wrong within that Denver offense. Every single position is just immediately amplified by 1,000. Tight end Alberto finally is going to get his chance. Running backs, not even running backs anymore. It's just running back. Javonte Williams is RB1 now. The 2 wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, even Tim Patrick. So you could even throw in 3 wide receivers. But yeah, don't
forget KJ Hamler too.
KJ Hamler is coming back. So I mean, he's got an insane offense going. So I'm really excited to see what Russell Wilson could do with this. My final winner is going to be the little hometown hero, not hometown, but Colts wise here on the Blue Stable is going to be MP jump ball, Michael Pittman Jr. He finally has a quarterback who can give him the ball. In his career so far, he's had Carson Wentz last year, obviously, and Phillip Rivers the year before that in his rookie year. Phillip Rivers can't throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field, if that. Carson Wentz can throw the ball, 75 yards, but, Michael Pittman Jr. was unfortunately 50 yards down the field. So overthrows him by 25 yards. But now he's finally got that chance. I think Matt Ryan still got it in him to be a really good quarterback. I don't know about MVP Matt Ryan anymore, but he still can be a really good quarterback. He has not had the chance to show that in the last couple of years because that offense in Atlanta has just declined rapidly. Not just steadily declined, rapidly just dropped. So especially if the Colts get another couple receivers in the draft or in free agency or by trade or whatever, to take the attention off of Michael Pittman Jr. He finished what, like top 15 in fantasy last year? Michael Pittman did.
I believe it ended up being wide receiver 17.
Yeah,
I think it was right around that mark. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that he's big winner this offseason. Just the upgrade alone to Matt Ryan is a big win. I do think they'll probably try to get a wide receiver or two in the draft. And then if they don't get like two receivers in the draft and just get like one, they'll probably sign a veteran, like maybe Jarvis Landry or another guy still out on the market, and to kind of like fill in as a wide receiver two for him. But yeah, no, I think that he could be very well because, like you said, the Atlanta offense just kind of like crumbled down around him. Yes, he had Kyle Pitts, but like Calvin Ridley was out for most of the year last year. They got rid of Julio Jones, his favorite target, and like running backs, they've been through a bunch of older running backs, which Cordell Patterson was pretty good, but he's not like a typical running back. Like Jonathan Taylor's a much better running back. And so the Colts offense is going to be pretty efficient, and Michael Pittman's probably going to take advantage of it.
When's the last time Matt Ryan had a run game? Devonte Freeman?
Probably Devonta Freeman, yeah.
It's insane. It's been years. It's like the Super Bowl run that he had.
Yeah, I gotta say this is definitely his best team, best offense, best run game since he's had since the Super Bowl.
And the only issue that I do have with Michael Pittman now is that he has a more accurate quarterback. Over the last 2 years, he has become an absolute expert in drawing pass interference because everything was underthrown.
I gotta say, I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, Carson Wentz just was able to get those pass interference calls because Michael Pittman was able to get that. Like he was able to turn around and come back and create the contact.
All it was last year was Michael Pittman turning around and trying to catch the ball when a defender just happens to be there, so he draws the PI. Now he's got a more accurate quarterback. Maybe not so much PI anymore, but maybe more actual deep balls where he'll actually get credit for
actual completions.
Right. So hopefully we got another 1,000-yard season for Michael Pittman. Hopefully Paris Campbell stays healthy. We just got Ashton Doolin back. It's gonna be a fun offense, especially after the draft.
I agree. Now moving on to the loser side of the ball, my biggest loser is Aaron Rodgers. He came back to Green Bay, and while he said that he knew that Devonte Adams was leaving, I really don't know, because Devonte Adams and him were like best friends. Like they were so close, like in real life. And the fact that he is losing Devonte Adams, which, like I said earlier, he is my number one receiver in the NFL right now. He's amazing, and now they are replacing Devonte with Sammy Watkins. So right now the receivers are Sammy Watkins and Al Lazard. Marquez Valdes-Scantling walked away. I hope they go receiver in the draft, but yeah, he's lost a lot of talent on their.
I think you're forgetting about Randall Cobb. He's still.
Oh, yes, at 32, 33. Well, how old is he now? I gotta look that up now. But yeah, no, it's to me he's a big. He's 31.
Were you about to call him a big loser?
I was going to call Aaron Rodgers big loser.
Oh, that's a little rude.
big loser. I mean, he lost his same friend in the playoffs. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Without scoring a single offensive touchdown. So
that was crazy.
But yeah, he definitely is a loser in this situation here because it's his wide receiver one is gone. His best friend. He had insane chemistry.
I mean, to be quite honest, even if they do take a receiver in the draft, you're not replacing Devonte Adams.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. Especially with how late they're picking. You're not getting a top receiver like that anymore. You wasted that. He's gone now. So it is weird that he knew Devonte Adams was leaving, and despite all the issues that he had with Green Bay, still decided to come back. But I guess they must have promised him something, because like, why else would you stay in Green Bay knowing how desperately you've been wanting a receiver over the last, several years? And then they're like, yeah, you can come back to Green Bay, but we're going to give away your only good
best receiver. Yeah.
And he's like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Like, how does that make any sort of sense in anybody's mind? But yeah, he really has nothing going for him on that offense anymore outside of a run game. But that doesn't really help him in fantasy. In no specific ranking, but one of my biggest losers in this situation is unfortunately that Ohio State boy, Justin Fields. Outside of just player wise, they got rid of Allen Robinson, obviously, who was the most talented receiver on that team.
They didn't want to use him anyway.
Yeah, they didn't use him to begin with, but he was the most talented receiver. He's got only Darnell Mooney. He's got Cole Kmet, and that's it. That's pretty much it. I know he is a really, really good scrambling quarterback, so he doesn't really need receivers desperately. However, fantasy-wise, you need to throw to somebody. So hopefully to get somebody in the draft, unlikely. But, I mean, the biggest side of this is that one of his main issues in not being able to be developed is that Matt Nagy could not develop, anything. So, there was no point in Matt Nagy leaving and then everybody being like, ooh, the Bears might have a good offense depending on who they get. And then they sign a defensive coordinator to be their head coach. Like, what? Why? Like, that doesn't help Justin Fields. The whole point you're trying to make here is that you can develop Justin Fields with an offensive-minded coach, and then you go and get a defensive coach. It made no sense at all. Chicago does not care about Justin Fields, and eventually Justin Fields won't care about Chicago, and I would really like to see him leave the same way he left the University of Georgia. I would really like to see him go, I don't know, to Indy or something, just spitballing. But
yeah, he's definitely a loser in this situation. You see the trends in the NFL, and a lot of the trends lately are you get a young quarterback and you get an offensive head coach to go with that young quarterback to help develop him. And the Bears are not doing that. And they also don't have very much help around him. Like David Montgomery, he's a good running back, underrated running back, I think. And you got Darnell Mooney as like your main receiving option, Cole Kmet at tight end. So it's not like great receiving weapons. Decent, like Darnell Mooney isn't bad by any means, but
right, yeah, absolutely. He has the potential to be a wide receiver one.
Right. No, I agree.
In that offense, not in fantasy, of course.
No, not in fantasy. I don't think Darnell Mooney's getting there, especially in that Bears offense. But yeah, it's tough because like with the Bears being so close to home, and I know you're an Ohio State fan, so it's more for you, but like I kind of do want the Bears to have success, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to be happening. Yeah. Get rid of Allen Robinson, which I understand there's bad blood between them anyway.
I don't blame Allen for it at all.
No. Especially with him going to the Rams. Like, yeah you got to take that. But yeah, Justin Fields is definitely a loser. I know I even saw like rumors of people like saying, he should request a trade because he's put in an impossible situation to succeed, which he kind of is.
I hate that next year we're going to see nothing but, well, Justin Fields is a bust. Like, who do you want him to throw the ball to? Himself? Yeah. Like, you want him to just run every play? Because that's basically all he can do right now. It's not – obviously he needs work. Every quarterback in this class needed work. But he's not going to be able to get that work if you're not building around him and letting him, like, actually do something. It's frustrating. It really is.
Yeah, no, I agree. My next one that I have on my loser list is Jalen Waddle. Man, this hurts because I love Jalen Waddle. Watching him last year, he was amazing. He's one of the best young receivers in the game. And then they went out and they traded for Tyreek Hill. This hurts Waddle quite a bit for the next couple years. I still think in Dynasty he's still kind of up there. Obviously not as high as what he used to be, but everything was just lining up for him to have a great season this year, which, I mean, he still can, but Tyreek Hill is going to get probably more attention than what Jalen Waddle will. So, yeah, second year is normally when like receivers and them take a huge jump, and Jalen Waddle was poised to have that big jump, but I guess it's just not in the cards for him. Which I can't blame the Dolphins, because if he can get Tyreek Hill, get Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The first thing I want to say is that I do find it very ironic that you had Tua as a winner, but Jalen as a loser.
That is true. Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. But, like you said, it's not really a guarantee that he's not going to have a great season, because, there's been other seasons where there's been loaded wide receiver cores, and,
number two gets more. Yeah.
Look at the Steelers with Antonio Brown
Juju.
and Juju. So, I mean, Jalen Waddle could end up being that Juju, but he's super, super talented. He is, like you said, one of the best young wide receivers in the game today. And it took him a minute to really get to that level last year. But once he did, like, everybody realized, like, this kid's going to be good. And then they went out and they got Tyreek Hill, which I don't blame them one bit, because it's Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, you got those two speed threats, and you're basically making defenses choose which one you want to cover. The only upside I could see for this is that they choose to cover Tyreek Hill,
which makes sense.
Because, he's the better receiver. But at the same time, you would think that Tyreek Hill being the better receiver is also going to get open more often, which would then in turn let Tua throw him the ball. So it's going to be interesting, honestly, to see how that offense runs.
I gotta say, the biggest thing that, like, I say that Parker is a loser for is because, like, you look at last year, he had Gesicki and Devonte Parker, basically.
Right.
And now you go to this year, and it is Cedric Wilson, Tyreek Hill, and Gesicki, and Chase Edmonds is also there to get some targets out of the backfield. So,
and I believe they re-signed Preston Williams, who I think is a
really he's solid. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting for sure. I kind of want to see how that plays out, to be honest. I think they may be one of the more fun teams to watch, at least offensively. And I think defensively too, maybe, but that doesn't matter for fantasy, so we don't care. My next loser, speaking on the subject of entire offenses, is going to be the entire Atlanta Falcons offense. Because at the end of the day, who? I mean, in one word to describe the Atlanta Falcons offense is who? Who do you have in that offense outside of Kyle Pitts? Who do you have in that offense that could possibly be in the top 40 in fantasy? You think Olamide Zacchaeus is going to be up there? Because he's not, I promise you. Frank Darby with his one career reception? Absolutely not.
They don't count out Auden Tate and Kadero Hodge.
Oh, you're right. You're right. My bad. Big time receiving threat, Auden Tate. The only big time is his height, and that's it. Marcus Mariota maybe has a bounce back season from his starting years, but at this point, he's kind of just a bridge quarterback. As much as I'd like to see him start, I kind of wanted him to be the bridge quarterback in Indy, but and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there were reports that he wanted to go to Indy too, but was waiting to see what they did before he made a decision.
I gotta say, he was on the market for the most part, waiting on Indianapolis, because that was his preferred destination, as well as, like, Colts were Matt Ryan's preferred destination. The Colts were Baker's preferred destination. So there's a lot of, like, quarterbacks that the Colts could have went, which, from what I understand, I don't have sources, so don't quote me, but from what I know, if the Colts did not get Matt Ryan, it would have been Marcus Mariota.
And I don't doubt that one bit. And I honestly would have been okay with it. Mariota as a bridge quarterback, and I understand why they went with Matt Ryan, because he does give them their best chance to win now. And I think that's kind of the mode they're in. They're not in a rebuilding. They're trying to win now. And I think Matt Ryan gives them that best chance. And I think that's what all these other quarterbacks knew too, is that they are really just a quarterback away. But yeah, so I mean, there's really nothing in that Falcons offense that, after trading away Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley's out for the entire year. Julio Jones has been gone. Nobody knows where he's at anymore. Hopefully he becomes a Colt, by the way. Wouldn't be opposed to that. So, I mean, they don't have a single receiver that means anything to anybody. the draft is still upcoming, so that could change. But God, like, what do you do with that offense, man? That's one of the worst offenses, maybe all time.
They need a lot of help. Like,
I've seen expansion teams with better offenses.
right. I gotta say, I know I kind of put it out on Twitter, and I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but like, if you look at last year's Texans team and this year's Falcons team, which one would you prefer? To me, I would prefer the Texans. I know I saw some people say the Falcons, which I can understand. Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson,
Oh yeah,
but it's like, yeah, Patterson and Kyle Pitts are probably like the only guys that I would even think about drafting on the Falcons offense this year.
It's a matter of, can Cordero Patterson recreate what he did last year?
Right. I gotta say this offense is like not the same as last year. Like Matt Ryan likes to target the running back position, and it worked perfectly with what Cordero Patterson does.
And I do believe we mentioned a couple of weeks ago the potential of a Mariota Cordero Patterson option offense.
Right. Yeah, we did mention that. But it's like, I know I remember Marcus on Twitter, he was like, whenever the Falcons signed Auden Tate, someone posted like the whole like roster of the Falcons, and then Destin was like, "Oh yeah, I see some fantasy sleepers on here," and I was like, "Hey, if you want to take them, I'll take whoever you leave."
Exactly, yeah.
Because I don't plan on drafting many Falcons this year.
I don't think I'm gonna draft any Falcons. I don't even know about Kyle Pitts because he doesn't have anybody throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I mean, unless Kyle Pitts has fallen to like the 5th round,
right.
You
thought it was bad with Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan's a good quarterback. You wait till you see what Marcus Mariota does.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
A receiver who doesn't really target tight ends to begin with, by the way, or a quarterback. Sorry, that doesn't target tight ends.
Right. Anyway, on to my last one. I hate saying this, but Antonio Gibson, my Gibbs season, my champion. Gibson is on my biggest loser list just because, not just Carson Wentz, because I know I said this before and I put it out on Twitter, but over like the last 8 games of the season last year, Jonathan Taylor had 5 targets in 8 games total. So like the last half of the season, he had 5 targets, which is nuts.
Carson Wentz hates the check down.
Yeah, he does not want to take the open check down, no matter how open it is. It's like Trent Richardson looking at an open hole in the offensive line, and he still goes around it.
Which, in turn, honestly, if he took the check down more often, he could probably be a reliable quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
What makes him a bad quarterback is that he just doesn't take the check down ever. He tries too hard to be the hero.
For me, he gets way too much hate. Like Carson Wentz gets too much hate.
Absolutely.
But he does it to himself because he doesn't take the check downs. He tries to play hero ball too much. If he would just take more of the check downs and quit like trying to throw it deep into triple coverage and stuff like that to get pass interferences or the deep ball, I think he'd be a much better quarterback, be a much more efficient offense with him in it. But either way,
quarterback by any means. I think it's the repertoire he gets because he doesn't take these checkdowns and he tries to force the ball and he goes for these chunk plays when sometimes on 1st and 10, you're allowed to just throw the ball next to you and get a couple yards with your running back or something. You don't have to go 45 yards in one play.
Right.
This is about Gibbs season, so I'll let you continue.
Yeah, but either way, Carson Wentz probably won't give him as many targets as what he was going to get, but also J.D. McKissick came back after he signed with the Bills. He agreed to terms with the Bills. He backed out and he went back to Washington, which made no sense to me because it's like, you could have went with Josh Allen or you're coming back with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke and you decided to come back. Didn't make sense to me. Also, Curtis Samuel, if he's healthy, he's been known to run the ball like it. Back whenever he was on Carolina, he was running the ball as well as a receiver. So
he had a 1,000-yard scrimmage season running the ball in Carolina.
Right. Yeah, so Gibson is going to not catch as much this year probably, and he's going to lose some touches. So it hurts me, but yeah.
Gone are the days of the Gibbs season, with Ron Rivera saying he wanted to turn him into Christian McCaffrey. And,
Oh man, don't get me started. That hurt me so much whenever he said that, and it just didn't happen.
yeah, awful. His rookie year, he really showed that he can be a really good running back in the league. And then, fast forward to today, and it's like they, for some reason, give JD McKissick all of his touchdowns. And it's awful. It's heartbreaking. The grave has already been dug for Gibbs season. God, I hope we're proven wrong, but it's
funny because we've talked about him losing touches and stuff like that, but yet he's still a running back one both his rookie year and last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he still does really well for the situations he's put in.
Yeah.
It's if you could just imagine him by himself, if he did have that Christian McCaffrey role, he could be the running back one overall.
Imagine what he could do if it was him, just him.
Yeah.
Imagine what he could do if he would do what he was promised. That's pretty much what it boils down to. So it is truly, in one word, heartbreaking. But moving on, my final loser is Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, the receivers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's not really a knock on them because they still did. Well, I guess Deontay Johnson more so than Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool was good his rookie year in 2020. Deontay Johnson was much better last year. So they kind of did a little flip flop there for some reason. Everybody thought Chase Claypool was going to be that wide receiver one after Juju was gone. And then Deontay Johnson's actually, it's me. Big Ben's gone. So, I mean, they did well with Big Ben, who could barely throw a check down to begin with, speaking of check downs. So imagine, what they could do with a real quarterback. However, unfortunately, that real quarterback is Mitchell Trubisky. At the time when I wrote this, as sad as it is, I did have, not sad as in ironic sad, but sad as in actually sad. I did have Dwayne Haskins in mind for maybe this offense as well, because I believe Trubisky and Haskins were probably supposed to battle it out in Pittsburgh. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Truly sad what happened there.
Tragic, yeah.
Awful. But yeah, so I mean, Mitch Trubisky is now QB1, and what could they possibly do with Mitch Trubisky? He is not a QB1 by any means. I hope for their sake that they get a rookie quarterback that can throw them the ball, but this quarterback class isn't exactly one of those quarterback classes where you really hope to get a quarterback. So I don't really see them doing too much this year. Maybe Trubisky shows why he was a top 2 pick, top 3 pick. Doubtful.
He was traded up for.
Yeah. Beyond me. But it's yet to see. So, but as of right now, they're looking like losers.
Yeah, personally, I don't necessarily agree because it's we did mention that Big Ben was not really a quarterback those last couple of years in Pittsburgh. Trubisky, while I don't think he's necessarily an upgrade over Big Ben, it's not necessarily also a downgrade. Hopefully, that year or two in Buffalo that he had helped him out. Maybe he learned something. Maybe he got to learn under Josh Allen enough where he could
say, but
yeah,
to learn under a young quarterback.
Right. Yeah, Josh Allen, he might be younger than Trubisky, actually.
I think he might be, to be honest.
But either way, maybe he can be a quarterback yet in this league. But yeah, even if they do draft a quarterback this year, I don't know if they're going to be starting him. I feel like it'd be one of those situations where you're starting Trubisky at the beginning of the season and then developing.
When Trubisky's the bridge, I don't think that rookie's going to start at any point this season, especially with how the rookie class is already being viewed, as in
right.
None of these guys are ready to start.
Right. But yeah, no, because I think the biggest thing that hurts the Claypool and Johnson is that they don't have chemistry with Trubisky yet. So I feel like that's the biggest thing that differentiates Big Ben in his final years and Trubisky is that they had chemistry and Trubisky does not yet. So yeah, and also their offensive line kind of got worse, didn't they?
It did. Not I
Yeah.
wouldn't even say kind of. I'd say it just straight up did.
It did get worse, which it was already bad to begin with, like going into the offseason.
And then on top of that, you know, it's something I didn't mention before, but Najee Harris has been involved in the receiving game a little more too last year. So I would imagine Tomlin's going to try and draw up a little more of stuff to get Najee involved.
I gotta say, and Freiermuth is developing pretty good at tight end, so he's going to get some targets as well. But yeah, no, I don't think I would put him as high as a loser as what you do, but I do understand why you're putting them there.
Honestly, it's just because I see them as a loser in general. There could have been higher losers that I just didn't think of at the time, but these are just the two that came to mind because this was fresh off the Trubisky news. So
right, yeah, that makes sense. But anyway, that is all that we have for today. I know this kind of went longer than a short episode that I was thinking, but yeah, this has been the winners and losers. Austin, do you have anything else for us tonight?
We did indeed start off this episode saying it was going to be a shorter episode, and then it went, I think, a little over an hour, if I'm not mistaken. So
I'm pretty sure it's been a bit over an hour. Yeah,
this was pushing one of our longer episodes. But, there was a lot to talk about. We missed a couple weeks, and hopefully we get back in here next week and talk right before the draft starts. So
right. Yeah, no, I agree. But anyway, once again, please make sure that you are subscribed down below. Make sure you like the video, wherever that is down here. And then also make sure you follow us on Twitter and the social medias. But yeah, next week, I don't even know what we're going to do yet. Maybe mock draft. I know Austin's been wanting to talk about rookies for a bit.
Little mock draft action. I mean, it's probably gonna involve some defensive players, but we don't really have to talk about them as much as we do the offense. Maybe just one round.
I gotta say, we could just also, instead of doing like an NFL draft, we just do a sleeper rookie mock draft. Is kind of what I'm thinking. So it's just like the offensive rookies only, so we can just talk about fantasy relevant players only, which I feel might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do that unless something else comes up. But at this point of the offseason, I don't know what will, other than a Debo trade.
Yeah, I'm not sure what other news in general we could have within a week.
Right. And then after that, it's going to be the actual NFL draft. So 2 weeks from now.
We'll have plenty to talk about after that.
We'll have a lot to talk about.
Our episode after this next episode is going to be after the draft. So that'll be a full draft full of players that could have chock full of potential. So
right. Yep. So stay tuned. We're going to keep grinding this off season. We're going to keep talking about some of these fantasy developments and who's doing what. Try to keep you as updated as we can. We're trying to do our best research for you guys so you don't have to. I know we try to say that quite a bit, but we want to do it for you. We want to do the hard work. We want to tell you who you should get, who you should be looking at, and stuff like that. But once again, thank you all for watching. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions. My Twitter DMs are open. So hit me up. Hit us up. But yeah, anyways, have a good day, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is that you're watching this, and goodbye.